distinguished Toastmasters Club. We meet the first and third Fridays of each month at 9 a.m. Pacific time, like right now. I'm getting my recording sign off. My name is April. I'm your Sergeant at Arms. Our Masters of Evaluation Club takes very seriously providing us all with a safe, secure, and fun meeting. We want you to know a high level of trust, honor, and respect for each participant is not only encouraged, but required. Masters of Evaluation members are focused on perfecting their speaking, leadership, and evaluation skills, which eliminates any room for personal offense. We're here together. As SAA, it is also my role to share a few practices to provide us with a smooth flowing meeting. For example, we ask you to silence your cell phones. We do want to see you unless you're eating or drinking or moving around your room. When you finish, when you begin to do something like that, take off your video screen, punch your buttons up at the top there. And then when you return, you're finished swallowing, come back on in, because we do want to see your beautiful face, just like Vincent is showing his beautiful face right now. And then remember to turn your cameras back on at the end of the meeting. Oh, by the way, at the end of the meeting, we often like to take a photograph, and that'll be done in such a handy way, you'll love it. In order to make our meeting more interactive, we ask everyone to usually keep your video and attention fully on. If you're speaking in a functionary role, we ask you to rename yourself right now so we may identify what role you serve. Mine is Sergeant at Arms at the top, but yours would be where your name is. These few recommendations will ensure we all have an enjoyable and comfortable and memorable visit together. Again, please remember to turn your phone back on once our meeting is concluded. It is now my pleasure to bring to our virtual stage our dynamic, always intentional, and fun-loving elected president, Jon White. Jon.
Thank you very much, Madam Sergeant of Arms. Thank you for that introduction. Welcome, everyone, to our first meeting in calendar 2024. It's a full meeting. I'm freezing here in Los Angeles, and Helen, I can see by your attire, it's cold where you are as well. It's a cold world today, but a warm meeting. I want to introduce our guest in no particular order, Sheila LaChance. How did you find out about us?
How I found out about you is through Sandra Savage.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. Welcome. So are you an existing Toastmaster?
Yes, I am. Long-term existing Toastmaster. Correct.
And looking to add another club to your list of Toastmaster clubs. We are accepting applications. We will talk to you later about the terms and conditions. But
Thank you, Jon.
Ready. And a friend of Sandra is a friend of ours.
Thank you.
For our next guest, I want to just let you know I mispronounce American names. Sometimes I mispronounce my own kids' names. So I am going to say Harjit Lakin. Welcome. Please correct the pronunciation of your name and tell us how you found out about us.
Hello, Jon. Hello, everyone. You pronounced it very well, Harjit. A lot of Americans pronounce it Harjit, which is what my mom would say in Punjabi, Harjit. But in English, I'm used to saying Harjit, so it was good. And then Lakan. I found out about the club on, I think I went to the Toastmasters International website and I was looking at advanced clubs. And I think, I mean, I've been with Toastmasters for 5 years. I'm president of our local club here in England, Milton Keynes. But evaluation is still, I do it, but I don't know if I do it very well. So it's something that caught my eye when I saw your whole club is dedicated to evaluations.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And right now we'll have a round robin evaluation of how you introduced yourself. Sandra, what were your thoughts on Harjit? Did he make his mom proud? I'm joking, Harjit. That will come later.
He would, yes, definitely.
We just lost a guest. No. Welcome all. We're looking forward to our meeting. I was looking forward to inducting our latest member, David Thompson. He didn't show up, but we can celebrate that the MoE ranks are growing. I will say welcome to Marjorie. We've missed you. I heard one of her resolutions is to try to attend MoE more frequent. Great to see you. Welcome, welcome. Always good to see Pat Caslin. Let's get to the business at hand. It's my pleasure to turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day, Victoria Trabosh. Victoria?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It is my pleasure to be here today. And to our guest, Harjit and Sheila, our theme is new beginnings, and it is a new beginning for me. I have not seen either one of you. They say if you have Alzheimer's, you make new friends every day. So if we've met before, I'm sorry, I do not remember. But I'm very pleased to meet you both today. And I'm very pleased to invite you to enjoy our meeting. At Masters of Evaluation, we say that we evaluate to elevate. Great evaluations are unconditionally constructive. And that's what you'll see today. We have a full agenda with 2 speakers. We have table topics with what we call snap evaluations, and they happen immediately after the table topic. So stay on your toes. You can always pass if you're not interested in participating. But I decided the theme would be new beginnings today because we start the year with resolutions, and I actually posted a thing on LinkedIn that it's a bad idea. Often we have resolutions and we've broken them by the 2nd or 3rd of the month of January, and we feel badly. I don't want you to feel badly about anything, including the speeches you give, including the words you say, including the way you say them. So join me today in a great meeting where we will go through the agenda as posted. Sandra Savage is posting the agenda in chat. And I would actually like to turn the meeting over to her as Zoom master. She stepped in for me. So tell us your role, Sandra.
Well, I hope to welcome anybody who joins after we've begun our meeting. I'm also going to be checking if we hear your microphone is on when someone else is speaking. I will go ahead and mute you for the speaker's advantage. And I will also be posting anything you would like in the chat, whether it be the agenda or how we do evaluations. All you have to do is ask me. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you very much, Sandra. And now if we could hear from our GE, Ray Sweeney. No, GE
Correction.
Dave Ryan. You know, this is the purpose of an agenda, to read it. Dave.
Thank you, Vicki. So my role as general evaluator, you're probably all familiar, is to provide the evaluations of the evaluators, not the speeches. And so what I'm going to be looking for today as general evaluator is for our evaluators to be kind, not nice, to find the areas for improvement and not to just sugarcoat it, but to give our speakers direct, constructive feedback that they can take away and improve their speeches with. So back to you.
Thank you very much. And now, Ray, I was so excited to hear you speak. Would you please give us your definition of the grammarian and our word of the day today?
Certainly will. Thank you very much, Vicki. And all the excitement in the room today is building up. Today's word is going to be linked to our theme of the meeting. It's the verb, which is transitive, commence. So it's a 14th century word that was actually Anglo-French in its origins. It comes from the verb commenciere. Okay, so in the 3rd person, one commences. In the past, one commenced. Or it could be a commencement speech. So try and see where you can use it within your structured speeches today. I'm going to keep an ear out for anything else that excites us. Evaluate to elevate. I heard that straight away from Vicki. What a great turn of phrase. And I shall give you my report at the end. Thank you, Vicki.
As I commence with the rest of our meeting, Ray, how many times are you going to challenge us to use the word of the day today?
Let's go for 20.
Got it.
In all different terms.
Am I acting as commenciere? Maybe not. Okay. I'd now like to introduce our first speaker, and to talk about his evaluation, Judith, what are you looking for in Jon's speech today?
Yes, Jon's speech, the purpose of this project is to remember to practice delivering social speech.
Excuse me, before you continue, you forgot the timer. All speakers are timed.
Oh.
What was I thinking, Harold? Thank you. Harold, please tell us your role as timer.
As a speaker, evaluator, whatever you do in Toastmasters, you are timed. You're given, and why are you timed? Develop a discipline. When you're invited out and they say, we want you to speak for 5 minutes, you don't go over 5 minutes. And I have 2 trusty timers in my hand, and I'm ready to go. Little Toastmasters.
Thank you, Harold. And speaking of timing, because you are the subject of our first speech, Sandra, would you mind timing the 3 to 4 minutes of Jon's speech? Great. Now, Judith, could you tell us what you'll be looking for in Jon's speech with Harold?
Well, it's a social speech. It says the purpose of this project is for the member to practice delivering social speech in front of the club members. So see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Harold G. We know him as wise, fun, and an engaging man. A man with a warm smile and always a twinkle in his eye, as though he knows something that we don't. Not that the man is taciturn or unwilling to share his knowledge. No. There simply isn't sufficient time to download all that this great man knows. With what Toastmaster timing rules and the need to share the lectern with others, alas, with Harold G., there never is enough time. Jon is working on the Engaging Humor Pathway Level 3 special social speeches. Jon's goal is to ask Mr. G a series of questions which helps us to better know the man. Please welcome Harold G. and Jon White with a Q&A session titled, My Next Guest Now Needs No Introduction, the Harold G. Interview.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmasters. You read my introduction just wonderfully, and it's an honor to be commencing 2024 with the first speech for Masters of Evaluation. Harold, welcome. I know you're slightly reluctant. I appreciate that you're doing this. First, if I could just ask you a question outside of Toastmasters, because that's the only way I know you. Are you currently working or are you enjoying the retired life, sir?
I use the term, I am not retired. I am in transition, and I'm just simply have another way of approaching various projects in my life. Retirement sounds so final. I like to commence a new activity, a new adventure.
Well put. Let me ask you, prior to your transition, was there a time that you had an employer? And if so, could you briefly describe that work?
Yes. I was employed by the dynamic at Los Angeles Community College District in the administrative office. The Los Angeles Community College District has 9 colleges, 9 community colleges in its district. Los Angeles City College, Los Angeles Southwest College, West LA College, Los Angeles Trade Technical College, Los Angeles Valley College, and they provide an opportunity for students to climb up the economic ladder. These colleges are low cost, all they have a cost, and they allow students to apply for fees, help from the government to complete their education. These are vital colleges in our economic structure. What did I do? I was sometimes a part-time instructor, but I was typically working in the administrative office on adding the degrees and college courses to the computer database, also going out to the college to consult with their administrators at the various campuses. Did I enjoy my work? Well, yes. you always approach it from looking for something interesting. So yes,
Thank
and it
you
was a
for that.
highly unionized environment. Yes.
Did I understand correctly that there was a time, a situation, experience at work that prompted you to join Toastmasters?
I was already a Toastmaster while I attended work there. I became a Toastmaster after I graduated from a few years from college. I became a teacher. Okay. And I told you the situation. You know, I'm a child of the 60s. There was Vietnam War. And it looked like everybody was about to go. But the college I attended, Los Angeles State College, put it in the newspaper. If you want to be a teacher, that's your avenue out. There was a line completely around the education department. And I was in that line. And because I became a teacher, I noticed there was an opening for the teachers union, a position. I took the position, but there was another big roadblock. You had to address rooms full of teachers, sometimes telling them about their union benefits and how they can be helped. I was paralyzed with fear to do something like that, literally paralyzed. I was driving down the street to a meeting. There was a sign that says, you can be hypnotized and you can have a better life. Now, while I thought that was a scam, I was so desperate. I went in and spoke to the lady. She said, oh, Mr. G, that's no big deal. We can help you. And she said, sit here and relax. Hypnosis, I have no control over you. You are going to be relaxed, go deep in your mind, touch your fingers, and that would stimulate that feeling. And and see an audience, and you'll be relaxed and speak to that audience in your mind. When you come back, go to your meeting and see what happens. I did. But then later on, I forgot how to do it. And I go into another meeting. I was paralyzed. I was afraid. Someone said, have you joined Toastmasters? I went to Toastmasters. I thought that was my ticket. I went to my first Toastmasters meeting, gave a speech, and I did so badly. I was so embarrassed, I never went back to that meeting. I went to another. I gave a presentation. They built me up and said how great I was. I said, good, I know I made 10 mistakes. They would point out two or three mistakes. I returned, and here I am today. I'm not as nervous. I'm self-confident, and I understand when you begin a speech, put some emphasis on it. Take control and speak as if you know something about the topic. And sometimes you can fool your audience. Okay. At any rate, that's my travel. Oh, I was a longtime president of Culver City Toastmasters. But they met every Tuesday. I got to the point I couldn't handle it. Anyway, that's where I am today.
Thank you for that. As I said in my introduction, there's never enough time. The red light indicates that that's true here. I may petition you and the board later on for Harold G. round 2, when I might ask you, you're a distinguished Toastmaster in 2005. Why did you join MoE? Suggestions for improvement, and a question that I didn't ask you. So that's to come. I want to thank you for taking the time. And it's my pleasure to turn the lectern back to our Toastmaster, Victoria Trabosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon, and thank you, Harold. May we have your last duty as timer. Sandra, before we turn it back over to Harold, will you give us 90 seconds? Please send your comments to Jon on what he did well, what he could improve, and also Harold, what you thought of his remarks. Okay, that's 90 seconds. We're going to go on to our next speech now. And Our next speaker is Tamara Evans. And Helen, will you please tell us what the objectives are for Tamara's speech today?
I certainly will. Well, after contacting Tamara, I heard that her speech is from the Innovative Planning Pathway, Speech 3, with the title, The Art of Persuasion. I am very much looking forward to this. I think the topic is absolutely fascinating and it's something that we can all learn from. Her objectives are to educate and to entertain us, which I'm very much really can't wait to hear it. She has asked me to make a particular response on her body language, her gestures, and her vocal variety. So possibly when you're thinking about your own response to her, maybe if you could have a think on those particular subjects would be fantastic to help her. Thank you. Or do I send it back? Do I give it straight to Tamara? So without further ado, I would like to pass the stage to Tamara Evans.
Actually, to me, so that I can read her introduction.
Oh, sorry, Victoria, right? Back to yourself, Victoria.
Okay, and Harold, may I ask that you raise your hand so that you go in the upper left-hand corner of the screen so Tamara can see you for timing?
Okay.
There's 3 little dots on the top of your screen, and it says, or down below, it says raise your hand. And that puts you, I don't think, Sandra, can you, there you go. Look at that. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Tamara. 20 years ago, when she lived in Ukraine, her friend Zoya invited her to a Toastmasters meeting in Kyiv, and she came there several times as a guest. Last summer, Zoya, who lives in Germany now, invited her to attend a Zoom meeting of Schilling speakers. She attended a few times as a guest and became a member in July. Then Pat Caslin heard one of her speeches and invited her to make that same speech to MoE. She agreed and started attending MoE as a guest. She liked the people and atmosphere and soon was encouraged to join. So she did so in November and is really happy about that. I'd like to introduce, for your enjoyment, Tamara Evans with a speech titled The Art of Persuasion. The Art of Persuasion, Tamara Evans.
Do you know that the secret of all true persuasion is to induce a person to persuade himself? What a brilliant idea! But how can this be done? I'll tell you a story which will offer an answer to this question. I heard it half a century ago on the radio in Ukraine. It was told so skillfully that it stands out in my memory quite vividly even today. The story is called Salvini's Mistake. In the 19th century, there lived a famous Italian actor, Tommaso Salvini. There were many roles in his repertoire, but his favorite one was that of Othello, a Venetian Moor. Salvini played this Shakespearean character temperamentally, smartly, and subtly. The story reveals what happened to Salvini in Florence, where he was loved tremendously. The whole city is covered with billboards. Tommaso Salvini plays the role of Othello. The tickets are sold out instantly. There is absolutely no way to get tickets because tonight the boys' resellers themselves are going to watch Salvini play. The theater is overcrowded an hour before the beginning. The auditorium is already filled with the atmosphere of triumph. Finally, the curtain opens. Nobody cares what the other actors are talking about. Everybody is looking forward to see Salvini's appearance on stage. Hardly had the edge of his cloak flashed on the wings when the audience gave him a wild ovation. Black all over, with sparkling whites, Salvini rapidly came out and stopped in the middle of the stage, his hands on the saber hilt. The audience was shocked. The applause was cut off. And immediately, yelling, mewing, feet stomping, shrill whistling, everyone jumped from their seats roaring. He understands something terrible has happened. What? He slowly looks around the stage, the actors, the sleeves of his camisole. His hands are white. He forgot to apply black makeup to them. Another actor would have run away from stage, from the city, from Italy. But this one, the authority of this actor was so great that with a mighty gesture of supernatural power, he threw the public back to their seats, pressed them down, and pinned them to their chairs. And then, in the dead silence that followed, he commenced his famous soliloquy, appealing to the Senate. Never before had he played so simply and so sublimely. Burning with love for Desdemona, he was purposefully touching her dress of black velvet with his white hand. The first act was over. The second act takes place in Cyprus. Now it's time for Othello to come out. With the eyes open wide and the neck stretched forward, everyone is afraid to miss his appearance. Hardly had Salvini come out when unimaginable screams were heard. The public rushed to the ramp and somebody already threw an apple core at the renowned actor. His hands are white again. Then, absolutely quietly, to the roar of the crowd, Salvini, one after the other, takes off his hands white gloves and gives them to the soldier. His hands are black. When in the first act he noticed his oversight, he went backstage and immediately sent a stage worker to the nearest hotel for a pair of white gloves. During the intermission, he applied some black makeup to his hands and, having put on white gloves, came on stage in the second act, pretending that in the first act he was also wearing white gloves. A storm of applause rewarded his resourcefulness. The public was roaring with delight, chanting, "Bravo, Salvini, viva!" Everybody understood that the great actor has made a mistake and skillfully got out of the situation. They were happy to forgive him for his mistake. Nevertheless, every time performing in Florence, Salvini kept coming on stage in the first act of Othello wearing white gloves. In other cities with black hands, but in Florence only in white gloves. And gradually, the audience became convinced that that was originally the case, that even then he came out in white gloves, and that it was not he, Salvini, who made a mistake, but they, the public. The moral from this story is obvious. If you just communicate, you can get by. But if you communicate skillfully, you can create miracles. Back to you.
Brava, brava, Tamara. And now let us commence with 90 seconds, Harold, for the feedback to Tamara. Thank you, Harold. And now may I call for a timer's report. Sandra, how long was Jon's speech?
Was Harold Geo's timer? Oh, Jon's speech was 7 minutes. Thank you. Exactly.
Thank you.
Right on the dot.
And Tamara, I'm sorry, Harold, how long was Tamara's speech? You're on mute.
Tamara's speech, I have 7 minutes and 14 seconds. I must apologize. I was so captivated by it. Anyway, 7 minutes, 14 seconds.
Beautiful job. And if you could turn your lights back off again, we're now going to go to table topics with SNAP evaluations by Jesper. Jesper, you have the stage.
Happy New Year, everyone. Let us commence table topics. And I would like to request our Zoom master, Sandra, to commence my screen sharing capabilities for this segment.
Oh, may I announce the timing for table topics?
Yes.
Table topics is from 1 to 2 minutes. You at the 1 minute mark, you will see a green light. At 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes, you will see a yellow light. At 2 minutes, you have a red light, and you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you, Timer Harold.
Yes.
And Zoom Master Sandra, were you able to give me co-hosting abilities?
Vicky, I've enabled him, but it's not working. Do you want to enable him? No?
It was enabled. I'm not sure what's going on, Jesper.
It's open.
Let me see if this works. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. There we go. New year, new you. I'd like to learn from all of you how we can make 2024 more productive. So for this segment, you're going to be an expert providing advice on the following topics. As an expert, you can approach the topic in any way as you want to. Since you're the expert, we just want to know how we can make 2024 a more productive year. And then I will call upon SNAP evaluators to provide feedback in less than a minute. So our first expert on our first topic, we'll go with expert Sandra. Give us your expert advice on starting a gratitude journal.
Thank you, Jesper. Now, this was not in Ray's instructions to me. I listened to his power hour and I took on a lot of his advice, but he didn't explain to me writing a gratitude journal. So I'm going to start that tomorrow, if that's all right with you. And I'm going to start to write down, I'm going to start with the little things, because those often seem to be forgotten. And I think it's really important to make note of those little extra somethings that happen along your way. A song that you sing along to, which I was doing way into the night last night while chatting with friends, enjoying those chats. One of the benefits of Toastmasters for me is this great social network. I'm also going to start to write down things I should be looking for and be grateful for, because a lot of times you don't think about them, so therefore you're not going to recognize them. And that I think is going to be a real challenge for me, is to look for how I could be more grateful to everyone and to the world in general, and make note of it instead of just letting it happen and roll by and watch it on the news. I want to make sure that I'm aware of what's going on around me. And I'm always thankful for having the inquisitive mind that I have that keeps me going and keeps me learning and keeps expanding my network. So I've got, actually, Ray, you're gonna have to add that to your list because I've got a lot to be thankful for. Back to you, Jasper.
Thank you, Sandra. I'd like to call upon April for a snap evaluation.
Thank you, Sandra. I believe I understand what you mean about being grateful for the small things. I've started my new year doing a journal every morning after meditating, and I am liking the feel of the journal in my hand, the writing, if I can get a pen to ink to stick with me. And I think you will have much success ahead in holding closer those things that you are grateful for. Let us know how it goes, please. Congratulations, Sandra.
Thank you, April. Our next expert advisor is Pat Caslin. Give us your expert advice on learning a new skill.
Thank you, Jasper. I'm a great believer in, as I approached retirement, well, not retirement, as I approached the third act in my life, that I need to think of life differently. Life is like a sigmoid curve. It goes up and then it starts to come down. Before you get to the top of this curve, start another one. Whatever that other one is, because that's the thing that will sustain you through the rest of your life. As things go up and they start to come down again, keep starting new curves. Whatever those curves are, the things that will interest you, the things that will sustain you, the things that will get you out of bed in the morning saying, I want to learn more about this. I want to do more about this. I want to give more to this. I want to get more from this. Because if you keep starting new curves, you'll keep yourself interested and you won't end up like the man who was described to me as being met as a 94-year-old and asked about his life and said, I had an interesting life, and described it up to the point at which he retired at 65. And then was asked, what did you do after retirement? And he said, well, I was retired. As if retirement was somewhere that you just went and became fallow. Don't become fallow. Don't just give up on life. Don't believe that there's nothing more to do. And ask yourself, when your eulogy is spoken, what are you going to be remembered for? The period up to the time you got the gold watch and you retired, or the period after you retired? I want to be remembered, if people remember me, for the things I did post the retirement in my third act, if I ever retire, that is. That's my advice on learning new skills, Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, Pat. For our snap evaluation, I'd like to call upon David Ryan.
Thank you, Jesper. So, Pat, I'd like to share my impression of your speech, and that was that you shared a very useful tool for all of us in starting a new curve before the first curve starts to decline. You lost me, however, when you started focusing in only on the third act. I feel that this is a universal lesson that can be applied to all of us. You maybe lost some of the members in the audience when you narrowed it in specifically on the third act. So my encouragement would be to think about the entire audience and that's it. So thanks, Pat.
Thank you, David. Our next expert is John Graham. Give us your best advice for drinking more water.
Thank you, Jasper. Drinking more water. Well, number one, for me, I have to keep one of these hanging around me all the time. So I actually have two of them, 2 quarts of water right here at my desk. So if I'm sitting here for any length of time, I'm reminding myself by looking at these. And I also try to hydrate with a little bit of this. This is called Liquid IV. And what it does is it turns your water into something more palatable, tastes better. It's more fluid. I mean, it's more solid. It helps your body recover from any loss of hydration you may have experienced. So the combination for me that I would recommend is not only keeping a couple of bottles of water next to your desk and using liquid IV when you get a chance to enhance the water and make it more palatable, flavorful, and a better hydrator. Now, this may be a hard thing to remember to do. So the other key in terms of creating a new habit is to do it frequently, really, and make it commence the process of drinking frequently and make yourself continue to do it throughout your life. Thank you.
Thank you, John. For the SNAP evaluation, I'd like to call upon Vincent.
Thank you. First, I would like to hear that you establish ethos, that you tell us why you know about water and why it is important. And since we're talking about water, your speech should be like a mighty river, like your mighty Mississippi, for instance, which comes from, or passes probably by Sandra's home, with ice blocks, and it's roaring, and it's loud, and it's noisy, and it attracts your audience's attention. And your river is more like a creek. It sort of continues nicely, pleasantly. But I think to commence your speech, you should really use the power of water, the power of noise, the power of descriptive language. Perhaps going into detail, it's interesting. Water is probably the only thing which we use in different formats. We use it in ice, we use it in vapor, we drink it, we boil in it. So there are lots of things you could have worked into your speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. For our next guest, or for our next expert advisor, Harjeet, would you like to participate in the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Make time to see your loved ones.
Thank you, Jesper. Make time to see your loved ones. My daughters were away at university for last couple of years, and it was very hard to keep in touch with them. And now they're all back. Just a few minutes ago, I was saying to them outside this door behind me, please make less noise, go in the other room. So I think I'm seeing too much of them right now. It was quite nice when they were at university and I had all that peace and quiet. But joking aside, it is really important to make time for people that are important to us. Someone said once that just because we're married to somebody or we have a child, it doesn't really mean we have a relationship with them if we don't spend any time. And time is the key. If you look at your life, you may think, I'm a very good husband, I'm a very good father. But if I ask myself, how much time do I actually spend with my wife? How much time do I spend with my children? How much time do I spend on my hobbies or my activities? And if I just add up the time, I can see, well, actually, I don't really spend much time with my younger daughter. She's on her devices in the evening. I'm doing my hobbies. So I think looking at time and just looking in your own life, do I spend that time with my loved ones? Am I just saying it? I'm someone's father, I'm someone's daughter, I'm a good mom, I'm a good dad. But really my time is somewhere else. I think that's the key thing that we need to look at. Thank you, Jesper.
Thank you, Harjeet. For SNAP evaluation, I'd like to call upon Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you, Harjeet, for your table topic. What I liked about your delivery was you repeated the title. Hey, what does that do for us? It gives us a chance to pause and think and correct our thoughts. You then went into a little icebreaker about a personal story with you about your daughters. And that's always a good way to get us all involved, wrap a nice warm blanket around us. But then I love the way you transitioned from, you said joking aside. So that was the transition to the real message of value that we were going to receive. And what was that message? That was that we don't get spend enough time with our family. And that is a message that goes around the world for everybody. So we can all relate to that. Thank you for your table topic. How can I help you improve on that? Perhaps maybe a little pause. Actually, it was quite well polished and the transition was fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ray. I am feeling so much more productive with the advice we're hearing so far. Let's continue to hear more. For our next expert advisor, Sheila, would you like to participate in the next one?
Certainly.
You are an expert on reevaluating your goals.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest Harjay. Reevaluate your goals. To reevaluate your goals is something that all of us should do, but don't always do. In fact, some of us don't start with a goal at all. I'm not talking about myself, but I am at times talking about myself. Evaluation is important. Here I am in an evaluation club, evaluating the evaluators and thinking about the new year to come. So thank you for all those thoughts. Another thought I might have is to reassess my goal, not just reevaluate it, but create a new one, perhaps. Have a new beginning, a new start. I too am retired, so there are new beginnings ahead of me. And I do want people to be remembered and inspired by my life now, in the now. This is where it counts. This is where I do my final act and go out. So I want to make an impact on others' lives and to inspire others to tell their stories. To tell their stories is to connect with other people. To connect with other people is a goal that I hope all of you have in the year 2024. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Sheila. And for a snap evaluator, I'd like to call upon Harold. I can take your time.
Excuse me. When you say okay, I thought I enjoyed her speaking voice. This topic, reevaluate her goals. She was talking about what she's going to do, what she intends to do, and the latter part of her life, the impact that she'd like to make. Now, how could she make this more impactful, more dramatic? He could have paused and put more emphasis on the concluding part of her life that she intends to make, how she's going to make an impact on others. She's looking forward to it. She's going to be energetic about it, enthusiastic about her latter part of her life. She'll have more energy and more passion in the concluding part of her life. She will be commencing a new life in the latter part of her life. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Harold. For our next topic, I'd like to call upon Marjorie. And your topic is random acts of kindness.
I will commence this speech with my act of the day. My act of kindness are toward the pets of everyone. I saw this morning a little cat outside, and it's cold. It's really, really cold. And I saw him shivering, and I picked it up, and he let me touch it. And I picked it up, I took it inside my back porch, and I put him in a box with blankets, because I think if you are not kind with pets, you cannot be kind with people. Every creature in the world deserves kindness. And this is one form for me to live. I love pets. I love people. I try to love everybody, even the ones that don't love me. I try to be kind to them. And I had an experience just this morning with somebody that wasn't that nice in an answer toward me. And I kept talking to him. And after that, he asked me about something that he needed. And I thought for a second, I'm not going to give the answer that I have for him. But I called myself and I said, no, don't do to him what he did to you. So I gave that person the answer that he needed. Back to you, Jesper.
Thank you, Marjorie. And for SNAP evaluation, I'd like to call upon Vicky.
Thank you, Jesper, and thank you, Marjorie. I loved your story about the kitty. And you summed it up so well when you said, if you're not kind with pets, you will not be kind with people. Then you went on to give another example where someone was not kind to you and you returned it with kindness. Beautifully done. Your voice is beautiful. The heart in it is so evident. The only thing I would suggest is you remind us all that a random act of kindness can save somebody's life. You don't know what your act of kindness will do, and that is one of the reasons to do it. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Vicky. For our next expert advisor, I'd like to call upon Rubensai. Are you available?
Yes, I'm available.
Excellent. Your expert topic is give yourself more compliments.
Thank you so much, Table Topics Master, for this amazing topic. Give yourself more compliments. Now, as an expert when it comes to complimenting other people, when you see a person's eyes light up whenever you say something kind to them, whenever you prop them up and just remind them of those little things that they're doing right, you find that there is more joy in giving those compliments than in receiving them. But most of the time, what most of us fail to realize is that we often take more time pouring into other people's cups and forget to pour into our own. And this is the part where you need to look into a mirror and tell yourself that, hey, I did good, or I am a good mother. I am a good friend, because these little things will remind you that you can do, you cannot give what you don't have. And when you learn to compliment yourself more, you'll be able to give with more love, with more joy, and it will have more impact. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Rubensai. For our SNAP evaluation, I'd like to call upon Sandra.
I loved the turn right away at the beginning on giving yourself more compliments by complimenting herself for something that she's good at. And I think that we all undervalue ourselves too much. So I think the first compliment we should give each other is to ourselves. That puts us, as she said, with a twinkle in our eye. She's so articulate. I love listening to your voice and to your wisdom. And you have a way of delivering it in a way that you could probably yell at me and I would enjoy it. I like the way that you wove through the story, and I don't have any recommendations at this time. I was so enthralled by some of your ideas that my mind started going and thinking of ways of complimenting people. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. I am so much more ready to tackle 2024. Let's hear from more expert advisors. Our next advisor is Vincent, and your topic is practice deep breathing.
Commencing my day, I purposely breathe. Now, this doesn't often work, because sometimes I forget. And there I lie in my bed and I've got to think of something, got to do something, I've got to start the day, I've got to commence the day. And I completely forget breathing. And then my wife says, Vincent, you're not breathing. Oh, I forgot to breathe. How? Yes, it's strange. My body can work without oxygen for days, hours, weeks, because very much like people who drink water, you can drink water, you might not drink water, but indeed, breathing is supposed to be the essence of life. And I have succeeded to live without breathing. And people are sometimes surprised. They go, Vincent, why have you stopped breathing? I said, it is a cumbersome exercise. There you have to really dedicate all your life to inhaling and exhaling. And sometimes people say, well, you have to inhale and have to go through your lungs up to your womb or your tummy, and you have to go back up. But if you stop breathing, you might associate that with death, but no, not at all. I mean, you can see me, I'm alive, and I don't need oxygen. Perhaps because I live on the shores of the Mediterranean, we sort of get associated with fish, and they don't need to breathe either. So why should I? And therefore, practice to deep breathe. Well, I don't. I often forget. And I would remind you that it might be helpful if you don't forget to breathe, because you might not be in my condition. You might not be able to survive without breathing. But try it. Go consider a goal of 2024. Stop breathing for a couple of hours every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. For our SNAP evaluation, I'd like to hear from Harjeet.
Hello. Yeah, I found that so funny, humorous. It's delivered with total seriousness of an expert. When you really thought about what you were saying, no, how can you live without breathing? You're breathing right now. But I like the way you pulled it off with a straight face, persuading us that we don't, and at the end that we need to practice a few hours every day without breathing. I think unless we're fish, we might not live to tell the story. So I like, my overall impression was, yeah, it was humorous, it was engaging. I liked the twist on it. And my recommendation was probably, I don't know, have some more variety in expressions, pacing. So well done, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Harjeet. For our next expert advisor, I'd like to call upon April. And your topic is send handwritten letters.
Yes, my friends, I want you to follow this very constructive advice, commence it immediately, and start writing to me in your hand. Write me a note, write me a letter. Okay, you can use the computer. Now, see, my problem is you don't want anything from me because you're not going to be able to read it if I put it in my hand. I kind of had a career in business, and I did have an administrative assistant, as they used to call secretaries in the days when I was working. And she would say to me, she would come in with a flimsy little piece of paper and say, what is this? And I don't want to torture you that way, because I torture myself because I can't read what I've written either. You do what you can best, but communicate you with putting it in writing, putting it on a mirror, putting it as you step. You can step on letters too, and that's called foot stamping. Good luck. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, April. For a SNAP evaluation, I'd like to call upon John Graham.
April, I thought that was very interesting. You started, the topic was handwritten letters, and you wound up pivoting to using the computer out of practicality of making that a good communication. And you asked us to write to you. I thought that was a very nice thing. I'll write to you. Yes. I don't know what about yet, but I certainly will do that. So you elicited good response, and you did a little pivot to using the computer instead of handwriting. And that's okay. It's perfectly legitimate to change the topic a little bit as you're giving it table topics. I think I would have tried to maybe give us an address or something to send things to. Really put that in chat if you had had a little bit more time to develop it, so that we could respond right away to you. And I love responding to you. I think that you are a wonderful communicator. So your screen should have been on when you were giving this, and it wasn't. So I missed that part, and that would be my only suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon. I believe we have time for one more. So for our last expert advisor, we have David Ryan, and your topic is take regular breaks.
I am an expert at taking regular breaks. Every hour, I stop 10 minutes before the hour, shut down the laptop, go out, get a drink of water, per John Graham's advice, write a handwritten note, per April's advice, bio break, all that stuff, come back, refreshed, ready to go. I highly advise that you never spend more than 60 minutes at a time sitting at your desk. We all need exercise. We need to get up, we need to stretch, we need to take a break, refresh our eyes, get rid of the strain on our eyes from focusing on a computer for extended periods of time. We all need a break every hour. And I'd advise that everyone start this habit next Monday, the 8th of January. What better time, start of the year, to try out a new habit. Set your alarm on your phone every hour, 10 minutes before the hour, and when that alarm goes off, unconditionally, sorry, I've got to go for another call, I need to take a break, shut it down, stand up, take 10 minutes for yourself. You won't regret it. Back to you, Topics Master.
Thank you, David. And to close out table topics with a snap evaluation, Sheila.
Thank you very much. And thank you, David. I loved how you started calling back to others and using their examples and using personal names. That is an attention grabbing device, and that's very professional and very, very experienced way to do that. The one improvement, you said refresh your eyes. You said it really fast. I thought refresh your eyes was a word. Refresh your eyes. So refresh your eyes. Just pause, pause, pause. Particularly when we're on Zoom, we really need to hear those definitive words that you so importantly shared with us. Taking regular breaks, I tell you, it was such a relaxing break to listen to your voice and to see you do that punch at the very beginning by the call back to other people's names relating to your audience. Well done, my friend. Loved it.
Thank you, Sheila. I have gained so many new ideas about going about this new year. So I'm just so excited with the suggestions, advice, and the recommendations that you all came up with. And I look forward to making 2024 a great year. Back to you, Toastmaster Vicky.
Thank you very much, Jesper. And before we commence with the rest of the evaluations, Harold, could you give us the long timing report on our speakers and our evaluators? The evaluators that were supposed to keep it to a minute or less, table topics 1 to 2. Go ahead, Harold.
Okay. Sandra Savage, number 1, she spoke 1 minute and 36 seconds. Her snap evaluator, April, spoke 40 seconds. Number 2, Pat Caslin spoke 1 minute, 54 seconds. Dave, his snap evaluator, 42 seconds. Jon Graham, snap table topics speaker, 1 minute, 22 seconds. Vincent 1 minute, 10 seconds. That was his snap evaluator. Harjik, I guess I'm mutilating his name. He spoke for 1 minute and 50 seconds. Ray Sweeney, snap evaluator, 56 seconds. Sheila spoke for 1 minute and 24 seconds. Evaluate your goals. And Harold G, I was so into giving an evaluation, I'll give myself 60 seconds. Okay. Marjorie.
I have you for 52.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Marjorie, random kindness. I have to notice that. 1 minute, 51 seconds. Vicky, 35 seconds. Her snap evaluator, 35 seconds. Rupa Side, I'm mutilating your name, I know. Spoke for 1 minute and 16 seconds. And Sandra Savage, her snap evaluator, spoke for 46 seconds. Vincent, deep breathing. I kept hearing deep wheezing or something. Anyway, deep breathing, 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And Harjik, 54 seconds. Number 9, April, 1 minute, 9 seconds. John Graham, 1 minute, 1 second. Number 10, David, take a break, 1 minute, 26 seconds. Snap evaluator, Sheila, 39 seconds. And I must commence my apology now. I wasn't always on the mark. But anyway, all of those are accurate. Have a good day.
Thank you, Harold. And you know, I want to say something about the speeches and the evaluations. None of us could see the timer. Now, some of us use our own timer, but do you realize everyone hit their mark? And I always say this to people. I know about how much is 2 minutes speaking now. And if you're ever in a meeting and someone says, what do? You can say, I can tell you in less than 2 minutes. They will listen, my friends. And the evaluations were well done. And with that, I would now like to turn the meeting over to our general evaluator to commence with the rest of the evaluations and bring it home. Dave Ryan.
Thank you, Vicky. And indeed, I will commence with the general evaluation portion of the meeting, where we get to learn how we can improve and elevate our impact and our audience's experience of our speeches. We are running a few minutes behind, so I'm going to jump straight into it and invite Judith to the virtual lectern to deliver the evaluation of Jon's speech.
Before you do, Judith, may I give the timing parameters for the evaluators?
Please, Harold. Yes.
The evaluators will have 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, they should see a green light. 2.5 minutes, a yellow light. 3 minutes, they have a red light, and then they have 30 seconds to wrap it up.
Great. Thank you, Harold. Over to you, Judith.
Okay, thank you, Mr. G. and Jon White. Jon's task was interviewing Harold G., introducing him to the club. So I have a few suggestions to this particular task. First, it would have been a good idea to have a prior meeting with Harold and tell him that each question he should spend maybe 1 minute or 1.5 minutes or something to his answer. And then I have 4 questions. 1, it's not that, are you still working? Tell us about the journey of your career in about 1.5 minutes. Second question, what sparked your interest in Toastmasters? Third, tell us a challenging situation that you had during your Toastmasters session. And third, what are your unique skills that you bring into this organization? And then one other thing. You mentioned that Harold G. needs no introduction. Of course he does. There are many people in this club who has never heard of Harold G. until he joined. People come from different states, different countries, And even I don't know a whole lot about Harold G, and I know him for a long time. So I think in the introduction of Harold, it would have been a good idea to talk about him, what he did his life, what he did. He has been president. He probably had other functions, functionaries in Toastmasters, how many years he has been here. So there is a lot of things that we could have tell us about him that people like to know. I think we still don't know a lot about him. So it was a good idea, certainly, but I think it's, I had some, that's my suggestion for a next interview. And the fact is, Jon, there's one of the things, that's my own personal thing. When you said, prior to your transition, so prior to your transition is a kind of strange sort of thing. Transition to what? Sometimes transition to another life, sometimes transition to whatever transition. So it may not be the perfect word, but anyway, it's a good idea. And so let's improve this interview a little better, but it's good. Keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. I'm going to provide the evaluation of the evaluators when I come down to my full evaluation in a few minutes after the grammarian and so on. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite Helen to provide your evaluation of Tamara's speech, please. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you, David. Well, thank you very much, Tamara, for giving us your first speech in this club. A few pointers, and the beginning, I loved it how you started with a strong, clear quote. You know, persuasion is to induce a person. I like this because it sparks our interest. It makes us sit up straight away. You're going to go straight into it and what we are going to get from listening to you. And you use the most powerful tool there is to teach us something. The power of storytelling. We all love stories, and the way you told your story, I thought was spot on. You asked me to think about your gestures. I think you nailed this. You know, for example, the whole city, you used your arms. When you used a tricolon and you used your arm, you know, pointing with each word, instantly. So you had lots of gestures to reinforce your words. Your objectives, were they reached? Well, you were hoped to educate us. I'd say yes. By using, you know, the power of persuasion is communicating with passion and pose, which you demonstrated in your wonderful story. So yes, you educated us. Did you entertain us? Yes, with your storytelling flair. Suggestions, just a few. Your vocal variety, possibly. There was an example I always like to give rather than just state the suggestions. You used the word roaring. Now, I felt that it was just sort of blended into your sentence. So when you're using words like roaring, you know, really use that diaphragm of yours and let us really feel it. When you use the sentence, something terrible has happened. Pause. What's happened? You know, get us excited. So possibly try and use a little bit more use of pause when you're saying such, you know, powerful points in your story. Another one was, you know, happy to forgive for his mistake. Pause. Let us digest those points. I'd be careful of your video positioning because I did find that your top of your head kept on being chopped off. But, you know, that's just something to think about. Your descriptive language, I liked. For example, sublimely. And the storm of applause, brilliant. But don't forget, when you're using the words, the storm, really let us feel it, the storm of applause. And your conclusion, clear, straight to the point, communicate skillfully, and you can achieve anything. Brilliant. Only recommendation here, I would possibly, so people can commence and go forward with your ethos of your story, is to strengthen it with short, clear, short points, words, you know, use control, ooze confidence, use passion, just to strengthen that perfect, you know, the ethos of the story that you gave, as in communicate skillfully and you can achieve anything. Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that speech. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was enjoying your evaluation so much, Helen, I almost forgot that I'm general evaluator and need to keep the show on the road. Next up, we have our grammarian, Ray, and just keeping an eye on the time, Ray, if you could keep it to 4 minutes.
No problem at all. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So we did really well tonight. It was a great word and we used it in so many different ways. 7 different ways that I counted that we used it. So we used it as commencier, which was Vicky, commencing, commence, commencement, commences, recommence, and commenced in past. 7 different ways. Congratulations to everyone for doing that. And we used it 15 times. All right. We kept putting it in the chat, which I think is a good way to do it because it reminds us to use it all the time. We didn't quite hit that 20 mark, but 15 times and 7 different uses for one word is fantastic. So well done. I constructed a quick little quiz for us as well. Who said what? Who was listening? Did you have your ears open? So my first one is, and you can open your microphones, speech like a mighty river. Who said that?
Vincent.
Vincent, yes.
Vincent. The third act in my life.
Pat Castle.
Pat indeed. Holding those skills closer.
Pat.
Harold G.
Jasper.
Tamara.
A for apple. It was April.
April.
The next one. Let's hear from some more expert advisors.
Jasper.
Jesper. His hands were on the saber's hilt.
Tamara.
Tamara, correct. Paralyzed with fear.
Harold.
Harold G. More passionate about this part of her life.
Sheila.
It was a Harold G again, that one. Next one is, I saw a little cat outside.
Marjorie.
Yeah. Next one, a random act of kindness.
Marjorie.
Marjorie and Jasper.
That was Vicky.
Oh.
Ah, you got us there, hey? So this one, we often pour into other people's cups.
Rumbazai.
Rumi. Okay. And who hit us with a tricolon? Give more love, give more joy, give more impact.
Oh, Helen?
John.
April.
I wrote it down.
Give more love, give more joy, give more impact.
Ruby.
Sandra?
Rumi on the double.
Oh.
Who gave us Unless We Are Fish?
Vincent.
Oh, no. Wait. Hadget.
Archit.
Ajit.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Who told us to refresh our eyes?
David.
David and Sheila. And the power of storytelling.
Helen.
Me.
Helen.
Helen. And last but not least, I'm going to reassess my goal, maybe not reevaluate it.
Sheila.
Sheila.
Sheila indeed. Well done. Big round of applause to everyone. Hey, back to you, our general evaluator.
Thank you, Ray. I'm going to jump straight into our evaluations. Judith.
Oh, what?
Sorry, Harold?
I'm sorry. You didn't call
Okay,
me.
no problem. So Judith, you certainly provided Jon with plenty of feedback and areas for suggestions for his improvement. My one suggestion to you, as I was listening to your evaluation, I felt that it was very direct and gave Jon points for improvement, and it certainly was kind in that it was rich in areas for Jon to focus on and to improve. But my suggestion is to maybe soften the delivery a little bit. I mean, it perhaps starting with Jon. This was a great initiative to interview a well-established member of the club, Harold, and it was great to get to know Harold better through your questions. And you know, Jon's request at the beginning was to be evaluated on whether he asked questions which helped us to get to know Harold. So complimenting Jon on his ability to ask those questions and to solicit those responses would have been a nice introduction before getting into the suggestions for improvement, which were also very valid. So that was my one suggestion for your evaluation, Judith. Helen. Communicate skillfully and you can achieve anything. Beginning your evaluation with a strong callback to a quote from the speech which really resonated with you is a compelling way to draw the audience in and to start the evaluation. I loved how you balanced the compliments to Tamara's body language and vocal variety that she delivered, but also gave very tangible, clear suggestions and examples of how she could apply those suggestions. So very skillfully well done. As I say, maybe starting with that quote and then finishing with Tamara, you communicated very skillfully through this speech and you can achieve anything. Something like that to have an introduction using a quote and wrapping it up is always a nice way to deliver an evaluation that's memorable. Ray, I compliment you on the grammarian role and your evaluation of our speech tonight and calling back those examples of great speech. We are coming up on time, so I'm going to dispense with the feedback on the overall meeting, but there was one other point that I wanted to call out, and that was I thought the introductions today were really great. I think that it's noticeable when the speakers put in the effort to write an introduction which supports their speech and is not just a bio. It really sets up the speech for success. So I'd like to compliment both our speakers and our evaluators for connecting with the speakers in advance to understand what they would like to get from their evaluations. With that, I'm going to hand back to our Toastmaster, Vicky. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you all for the meeting today. Jon and I had an unofficial bet that we wouldn't finish on time. We're getting there. So I'm turning the meeting back over to our president to make the closing remarks and hear from our guests. And then maybe we could stay on and assign roles at the end.
I bet that we would go over the allotted time. So welcome to Harold G Part 2, where I incorporate all of Judith's comments. We will be here till 11. Anyway, I wanted to hear about the guests' feedback on the meeting. Sheila, what did you think?
Okay, I'm going to make a snap evaluation of the meeting. Impression and suggestion. First impression is it was energetic, it was educational, and it was edifying. So I appreciated that very much. Suggestion, I don't know if All the table topics are done that way where the screen is big and the people are really small, but I missed seeing the gestures of the folks. So my suggestion for that would be to have the question there in red, like you did as table topics master, and then take it away and have the person appear large and on screen. That's my only suggestion. Thank you for inviting me, Sandra, and thank you all for having me here.
Great idea. Thank you for that feedback, Sheila. Harjeet, what were your impressions? I really enjoyed meeting everyone. The time is good for me in terms of it's the end of my working day, and there's quite a few English people here, I think, and morning for others. So that was, in terms of timing, it was good. Enjoyed your backdrops as well. It makes it look really professional. Your Masters of Evaluation. I like the format of your table topics and the snap evaluations. And you got everyone involved. I thought that was fantastic. I thought I might have gotten away with it, but you asked me to evaluate as well at the end. so that was I think it's really good to get everyone involved and talking as much as possible, because that's why we come to Toastmasters Club, and I think you did that really well. Recommendations, suggestions. I think it's my first time here, but I think when you give the long list of times for the table topics, all we really need to know is if anyone was out of time. I think that would shorten it a lot, because we don't really remember all the times that, I know Hal's done a lot of work to write it all down, but I don't remember most of the times that you gave, and it's not really something I need to know, other than was somebody out and maybe they just need to know they're a bit short or they're a bit long. So well done. Thank you for having me. Great feedback. I love it. The spirit of Master of Evaluation has been adopted by Sheila and Harjeet. Excellent. And if you'd like, stay after the meeting and we can talk about joining the club. As I said, we do have spots available for quality advanced Toastmasters, and you qualify for that.